Between 1450 and 1750, Europe was gripped by a terrifying fear witchcraft. This fear sparked the Great European Witch Hunt, a wave of persecution that swept across villages, towns, and entire regions. Around 100,000 people were formally accused of witchcraft, an unimaginable number and likely an underestimate. About half of those accused, roughly 50,000, were executed, hanged, burned, or killed in other brutal ways. These were ordinary people, farmers, midwives, merchants, neighbors. Accusations tore communities apart, turning friends and families against each other. The tragedy was immense, leaving deep scars across the continent. The intensity of the hunts varied. The Holy Roman Empire saw entire villages decimated, while places like Spain or Ireland had far fewer trials. The witch hunt wasn't a single event, but a series of local panics and legal actions, each shaped by local laws, beliefs, and social tensions. The popular image of a witch with a broomstick is a myth. The reality was mass paranoia and legalized killing. Victims were caught in a system that used impossible beliefs to justify terrible acts. Their stories remind us how easily fear can lead to injustice. Understanding the sheer number of lives lost is the first step to grasping the horror of these centuries. The witch hunts were a continent-wide phenomenon, not a fairy tale. We must remember the victims to fully understand this dark chapter in history. The scale of the witch hunts is a sobering warning from the past. The witch hunts didn't appear out of nowhere. They grew from deep-rooted fears and ancient beliefs. For centuries, Europeans believed in magic and folk healers, who were part of daily life. But over time, a new idea took hold, that witches made pacts with the devil, becoming enemies of God and society. This transformed witchcraft from a nuisance into heresy, a crime against God. The church and state now had reason to hunt witches with full force. The belief in a secret army of devil worshippers created panic and urgency. Superstition made people quick to blame witchcraft for misfortune, bad weather, illness, or failed crops. In a world without science, witchcraft was a simple explanation for the inexplicable. The constant fear of disaster, combined with the new idea of diabolical witchcraft, set the stage for the hunts. Communities felt under attack from hidden enemies. The witch hunts were born from a mix of old superstitions and new terrifying religious ideas. This combination proved deadly. Religion was at the heart of the witch hunts. The idea of the diabolical witch came from Christian theology, where the devil was seen as a real threat. Witchcraft became the ultimate sin, a direct attack on God. The Protestant Reformation and Catholic Counter-Reformation fueled religious competition, each side eager to prove its piety by rooting out evil. Both Catholics and Protestants used witch trials to show their zeal, deepening fear and division. The Bible's command, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," was used to justify executions. Manuals like the Malleus Maleficarum spread the idea of diabolical witchcraft and guided witch hunters. Yet religion also planted seeds of doubt. Some priests and theologians questioned the evidence and the use of torture. They argued that confessions were unreliable and that innocent people were dying. Over time, these doubts helped dismantle the beliefs that fueled the hunts. Faith was a double-edged sword. It justified persecution, but also inspired skepticism and reform. The witch hunts show how religious fervor can both ignite and extinguish mass hysteria. The struggle between belief and doubt shaped the course of the hunts. In the end, faith played a role in both the tragedy and its eventual end. The witch hunts were also driven by social and economic tensions. Early modern Europe was plagued by poverty, famine, and disease. When disaster struck, people looked for someone to blame, often a neighbor or outsider. Witch accusations followed lines of conflict. Land disputes, family feuds, or old grudges could turn deadly. The most vulnerable, old, poor, or socially isolated women were easy targets. Midwives and healers present at life's most fragile moments were often blamed when things went wrong. Accusations became a way to settle scores or remove burdens from the community. The witch became a scapegoat for society's problems, offering a false sense of control. These hunts were not just about religion, they were about power, fear, and the need for simple answers. Scapegoating provided comfort in a chaotic world. The witch hunts reveal how easily fear and hardship can turn communities against their own. To grasp the human cost, we must look at the stories of the accused. Walpurga Hausmanin, a German midwife, was arrested in 1587 and tortured into confessing to impossible crimes, making pacts with the devil, killing babies, and causing storms. Her confession reflected her interrogator's beliefs, not reality. She was burned at the stake, a victim of her profession and the era's paranoia. In Salem, Massachusetts, 1692, Giles Corey was accused alongside his wife. Refusing to plead, he endured torture by heavy stones, peine forte et dure, so his property would pass to his sons. His last words, more weight. Corey's resistance was an act of defiance against an unjust system. These stories show the cruelty of the hunts and the courage of those who suffered. The accused were not monsters, but ordinary people caught in a nightmare. Their fates were sealed by fear, suspicion, and the machinery of injustice. Remembering them is essential to understanding the true horror of the witch hunts. Witch trials were designed to convict, not to find the truth. Accusations could come from anyone, even children. The accused were thrown into filthy prisons, isolated and terrified. Confessions, considered the best evidence, were often extracted through torture. Spectral evidence, claims that a spirit caused harm, was impossible to disprove. Physical marks like moles or scars were called witches' marks. Torture devices and sleep deprivation broke the accused, forcing false confessions. Once a confession was obtained, conviction and execution followed. Property was often seized, giving officials a motive to pursue more cases. The entire system was a terrifying machine. Once accused, escape was nearly impossible. While most victims were women, men were also accused and executed for witchcraft. In some regions, men made up a significant portion, even a majority, of the accused. The fear of witchcraft targeted anyone seen as a threat, regardless of gender. Men were often accused for reasons tied to their roles, shepherds blamed for livestock deaths, or men caught in political disputes. Sometimes men were implicated simply because they were related to accused women. Tortured confessions often dragged husbands, sons, or brothers into the web. The witch hunts were about enforcing conformity and eliminating perceived threats. Misogyny played a role, but the core was fear of subversion and dissent. Anyone who challenged authority or stood out could become a target. The persecution of men reveals the broader paranoia at the heart of the witch hunts. The end of the witch hunts was gradual, driven by many factors. Legal reforms were crucial. Judges and lawyers began to doubt confessions obtained by torture and demanded real evidence. Spectral evidence was rejected, and new laws abolished torture and witch trials in many places. The scientific revolution changed how people understood the world, replacing superstition with natural explanations. As science advanced, belief in witchcraft faded among the educated. Religious wars calmed, and a spirit of tolerance slowly emerged. Some religious leaders began to preach compassion over punishment. Communities grew weary of fear and bloodshed, realizing the hunts caused more harm than good. The machinery of persecution broke down. The witch hunts ended not with a bang but with a slow, collective awakening. The lessons learned would shape the future of justice and belief. The European witch hunts are a stark warning about the dangers of fear, superstition, and scapegoating. When societies face hardship, the urge to blame others can have devastating consequences. The victims of the witch hunts were scapegoats, punished for problems they didn't cause. The legal systems that killed thousands were built on flawed evidence and panic. This history reminds us of the need for fair, rational justice and skepticism toward unproven claims. The witch hunts show how entire societies can be swept up in collective delusion. Education and critical thinking are our best defenses against repeating such tragedies. By remembering the victims, we honor their memory and learn from the past. Their stories are not just relics, they are urgent warnings for today. Understanding history helps us choose a better path forward. Let's keep exploring the past to build a wiser future. Thank you for joining this journey into one of history's darkest chapters.